Hey guys, Greg here. Welcome to the behind the scenes of the disabilities video. And by the way, I'm just going to show random footage that I've shot as I talk about all these behind the scene things. Alright? I must have mentioned this before, but the reason for this video was because a commenter wanted to know what it's like to live with a disability in Japan. I was also curious about this, and I've read textbooks about it, but they were about 10 years old when I had read it, and that was already a decade ago. So that was a generation behind regarding what's going on, was my knowledge. So it was like 20 years ago was what I knew, what was happening. And when I looked on the streets, I didn't see so many disabled people making use of the facilities, such as the elevators that I saw newly being built, or other things. So I was really curious as to what the situation was. Another reason I do documentaries is because incremental change happens. So there's all these like little things that happen over time. So even though a situation might seem like, oh, if you compare, one country versus another, and this one seems behind, and there are a lot of critics saying, okay, we need to be better. Like this is just bad policies, bad situation going on, and I think that can be true for certain aspects. But what I also like to show and think about and look at is, are things getting better? And so I think there's some things in Japan where Japan's behind the times, like gender equality. Japan could be doing better in that area. But if you compare it to, say, 20 or 30 years ago, I think there's a lot of great improvements that have been happening. But of course, there are things that still need to be done. So that's what I like to do with the documentaries, is kind of show that, this is maybe where it was, this is where it is now, and maybe this is where it should be in the future. But really what I'm mostly showing is what it is like right now. So I was happy to find out that with the disabilities video, that things have really changed in the past 20 years in a positive way. And it all started when I met Josh, and I was pretty happy to get in touch with him. I just searched him online. I was searching about disabilities, trying to learn more, and he had a great website, and I contacted him, seeing if he wanted to collaborate on video, and he was really open to it. Put me in touch with a couple other people like Yuriko and Mine Kazu-san. So that was really great of him to do that. But so when I first met Josh, and after I talked to Josh in person, and then same thing with Yuriko, I was quite giddy after the interview because I learned so much. So, my wife could tell you this, but when I got home, I was just so happy. Like I talked to her for like an hour about what I learned after meeting with both Josh and then Yuriko, because I just learned so much and it was so exciting. But then, when it comes time to edit the video, it's a struggle because you have all this great info, but how long do you make the video? And the other problem is once you've heard information before, so the first time you hear it, it's pretty exciting when you learn something new. But then after that, it's like, oh, I already know this, so it doesn't seem so important or so, exciting anymore or interesting. So, what's important now? Sometimes you kind of lose sight of, what's good to say. And sometimes things are exciting because you just learn that something isn't true versus you learn something that is true or something new. So, so it could take a while to figure this out. Like it could take like 5 minutes of talking to figure out like, oh, okay, this doesn't happen, but you don't really need to talk 5 minutes about this. So, what do you put in, what do you keep out? Anyways, when I first started doing documentaries, I thought they would be about maybe 20 minutes or so. So that's what I did with part one. I tried to go with what's the most, maybe visually striking piece, stuff that I had the most visuals for, but also something that would appeal to people traveling to Japan, and that was why I focused on the traveling in Japan part, because that one I could figure out how to do, fairly coherently in a 20-minute time frame. But then there's the other part, all the other stuff of how the system works, which I thought was quite interesting, but maybe not as many people would care about. And kind of the inner workings of how you get support and how workers, work out. So, that one I sat on it for a while because I just didn't know what to do with it. But in the end, I put out a half-hour episode because I thought people who are interested will, sit down and watch. I don't have as many nice visuals on that one, but what the people were saying was important, so I thought people would, want to know. So I put that out. Now I don't know what strategy I'll take in the future with making videos. I think I still have a big learning curve. Every single time I produce another one, I learn a little bit more, and I get feedback from viewers as well. So we'll see how it goes. I wondered, like, if I had just made a single 10-minute version, would that have been more compelling to more viewers? And the more viewers you get, the more people that will learn about the situation. Would you be better off that way? I don't know. Or do you do like a 10-minute version and then you do a longer one for the people who want to know, more in depth? I guess we'll see. So I'll just talk a little bit about Josh and then about Yuriko. So interviewing Josh was great because he was just so knowledgeable, but he could also easily explain things off the top of his head. He was really a positive guy, a really nice guy. So that was a pleasure to interview him. And Yuriko was quite interesting as well. She insisted on speaking English. She, of course, I'm sure she could word things way better in Japanese, that being her first and native language. But man, she wanted to do all in English, which I was really impressed with. And she's quite a determined individual. For example, we were going to a Daiso, and if you don't know that, it's like a dollar shop or a $2 type of shop. We can buy some pretty cheap stuff. And she just wanted to show what shopping was like over there. But we were prevented because we asked to film officially, and then they said, sorry, no cameras allowed. So then we went to a department store, and she was like, maybe we shouldn't, tell anybody. And so we're like, okay, we'll just try to guerrilla film this. And we started filming, and then, someone's like, hey, you can't film. Luckily, she had a contact in that store, and she was able to appeal to the manager. And through that connection, we were able to actually get a press pass to film. So I was really happy that she doesn't easily give in to like an answer of no, that she's like pretty determined to get things done. So I think that's why she's so successful at all the other things she does with her life. So when it came to filming BRoll, and if you don't know what BRoll is, it's kind of all the parts of a video where there's no talking head. So it's the non-interview parts. So that's shots of trains, shots of Josh and Yuriko who are navigating the city. That's BRoll. So filming the BRoll I had to do on a few separate days. It's hard to figure out how far to go with filming BRoll. It adds a lot visually, but there's a certain cost-benefit analysis you have to think about because, I'm not getting necessarily paid to go and film these extra bits. I mean, I have some great Patreon supporters. Thank you very much. But I mean, essentially, you're just going out and spending extra time to film things. I still believe there's a lot of work to be done with physical disabilities. I still believe there's a lot of work to be done with physical disabilities as well as intellectual disabilities. One such thing that concerned me was the schools. I would love to see Japan become more like Canada, where there's more integration between the disabled and non-disabled students. In Japan, you can get into, I guess I'll just call it like a regular school system if you have a disability, but I guess it's probably not as easy as accepted or just normal or normalized as it is in Canada. So I'd love to see that just happen. Anyways, I think I've talked enough on this one. I just want to say once again, thank you for all those who have supported me on Patreon and all those who are just, watching and enjoying the videos and commenting and interacting. Thank you so much. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.